Now that ArieForce One has been open for 3 months, I've been having a fun little debate with some friends lately, and I'm genuinely curious what others have to say about this as well. So let's get into which coaster is better, ArieForce One or Iron Gwazi. Alright. Now before you get too triggered with anything I have to say in this video, just know that I love both of these coasters dearly and have them both ranked 2 and 3 in my overall rankings. I've also had the pleasure of having both of these coasters at home parks of mine at one time or another, so we're going to go through both of these coasters element by element and see how they compare. Other factors like theming and reliability will also be taken into account. At the time of writing this video, I have ridden Iron Gwazi 56 times and ArieForce One 575 times, so I feel like I have a pretty good feel for both of them and how they run. Let's start out by taking a brief look at the stats, as shown on screen. Iron Gwazi boasts a clear advantage when it comes to height, with a strong first drop at 206 feet at a beyond vertical angle of 91 degrees, compared to ArieForce One's first drop of 146 feet at an angle of 83 degrees. Iron Gwazi blazes through its 4,075 foot layout at a top speed of 76 miles per hour, and ArieForce One covers 3,400 feet of track while reaching a top speed of 64 miles per hour. Although I'm convinced that both of these rides can and have run faster. ArieForce One features 4 inversions, while Iron Gwazi features just 2. On paper, Iron Gwazi has a clear edge when it comes to stats, but stats can be deceiving, and we will get into that later in this video. Both of these coasters, like most out there, feature a unique theme, but this is where FunSpot really handed it to the other US parks with an RMC like this one. If you visited Busch Gardens Tampa, you've probably already noticed that Iron Gwazi is definitely lacking in this department. It features an absolutely killer train and a beautiful station and landscaping, which I will say is more than most parks, but it lacks a true story like ArieForce One. ArieForce One is themed to air and space flight and John Aries Sr.'s fascination with it. The theme is clear the second that you pull into the park and see the station. The station is themed to a hangar, and the inside of the queue is just as impressive as the outside. The ground floor is full of in-house theming that an employee at the park handmade from salvaged materials at the park. Everything from barrels, an old whiteboard, tubing, and even the old playpen were used to create this charming little queue. The park also installed a TV downstairs with a sort of informational pre-show that riders can watch before riding. The stars of the show when it comes to the theming on ArieForce One are the 2 panels that are also homemade, one being downstairs and the other upstairs on the side of the ride control booth. The Easter eggs in the whiteboard are also a wonderful added touch. You can pause the screen here to check some of those out. Once you're upstairs in the station, the theming is much more subtle, but it is also so much better than what 99% of coasters out there give you. When it comes to theming, ArieForce One destroys Iron Gwazi, but at the end of the day, some people could care less about theming. I, however, am not one of those people and feel that it adds to the overall experience of a ride, so when I saw ArieForce One's queue for the first time, I ate it up. For those that don't care about theming, they're normally focused on the layout and what the ride can provide in terms of thrills, so let's get into that. Both of these coasters start off with pre-list sections, like your other typical RMCs do. These are definitely the least thrilling moments of the rides, but they're definitely a nice added bonus that give you a little pop of airtime depending on where you are in the train. Or 2 if you're riding ArieForce One. I personally prefer ArieForce One's pre-lift section, but these pre-lift sections are pretty insignificant when it comes down to the overall package that both of these coasters provide. As for the lift hills, yeah, they're both loud and infested with wasps. Moving on. First drops. I rattled out the stats of these earlier in the video, but I consider Iron Gwazi's first drop to be on the same tier as Fury 325's. This drop is a part of the elite and has that sensation that is never going to end. In fact, the opening series of elements in Iron Gwazi is probably the best in the world. ArieForce One opens with a pretty underrated drop, and I honestly think it's gotten better since opening day, but it just doesn't stack up to the Croc. It does, however, follow it up with the world's first Raven Trust dive. The tunneling effect of the surrounding supports is amazing while you're completely out of your seat for almost the entire element. I've heard a decent number of people saying this element underperformed their expectations, but I thoroughly enjoy it. While ArieForce One soars through the Raven Trust dive, Iron Gwazi follows its first drop up with an incredible overbanked turn that might be the best of its kind in the world. The airtime here is absolutely filthy. After diving back down to ground level, Iron Gwazi rips up through a banked turn and into a one-of-a-kind element, the death roll. Easily one of my top 5 favorite inversions, and this is where Iron Gwazi's nasty opening trio is complete. ArieForce One finishes off its opening trio of major elements with the longest 0G stall in North America, but not before launching riders over a misleading ejector hill. It doesn't look like much, but man does it pack a punch. And the stall performs just as expected. It's a solid 3 to 4 seconds of hang time with a little airtime at the beginning and end of it. I give the death roll a slight edge here, but this is where ArieForce One is just beginning to pick up steam. Iron Gwazi then does this thing, while setting up an amazing wave turn. This used to be one of my favorite airtime moments on any coaster, and then I rode the Outer Banked Airtime Hill on ArieForce One. I didn't want recency bias to be an issue making this video, so I took a special trip down to Florida to stack these rides up against each other. And to surprise Brian from Zoodoo Loopers, vlog on that coming soon. I was anticipating the wave turn the entire ride, and when I got there, I realized just how good this Outer Banked Airtime Hill on ArieForce One truly is. I was beyond shocked at how short the wave turn felt. ArieForce One had completely destroyed it, and I don't say that lightly. Both coasters follow up these solid elements with another couple moments of airtime, with one being way stronger than the other. If you've ridden both of these coasters, you know exactly which one I'm referring to. The double up on ArieForce One. This sucker packs a serious gut punch cresting over that second drop. The first hill provides a nice pop of ejector too, but the second provides the strongest moment of airtime on the ride. The Outer Banked Airtime Hill has the duration, but this has the pull, and it's many people's favorite element on the ride. Give me the double up any day over these hills. After these airtime moments, both rides send their riders through another inversion. Iron Gwazi coast riders through a 0G stall, if you want to call it that. It's a fun inversion, but you get maybe a second of hang time. On the other hand, about 450 miles further north, ArieForce One pairs the double up with an immediate barrel roll over the arcade building. This has Mosasaurus roll type of whip, but rather than hanging over water, you're rolling over a building and through a mess of supports. It's definitely not fair to compare these elements to one another, but ArieForce One's stall slaughters Iron Gwazi's stall, and the death roll has a slight, and I mean slight, advantage over the arcade roll. But neither of these rides are done yet. These inversions really set up the finale for both rides. Both have a fun off-axis pop of airtime coming out of the inversions, and Iron Gwazi follows it up with a strong double down and final drop that are possibly the strongest punch of sudden ejector on the ride, before it slams into the brakes with a ton of momentum. After its own off-axis airtime hill, ArieForce One pulls into an intense helix that flows so fluidly into a 0G roll to the right. You then hit a pop of airtime as you pass back over the arcade to finish the ride on what is actually 6 consecutive moments of ejector airtime. This quad/quin/sextuple down is absolutely insane, and some people swear it's too much. I personally disagree, but the slam into the brakes might be. I find it hard to brace for the brakes on both Iron Gwazi and ArieForce One when in odd numbered rows. Which brings me to pacing. Both of these rides have elite pacing. From the first drop to the final brakes, Iron Gwazi clocks in at approximately 46 seconds, covering an average of 88 to 89 feet per second. ArieForce One has been consistently clocking sub 42 second rides since opening day at an average of 83 to 84 feet per second. With that kind of pacing, both rides also pull some insane forces. According to posts collected from the r/RideForces subreddit and measures I've seen with my own eyes, ArieForce One and Iron Gwazi both pull as low as negative 1.6 to negative 1.7 Gs, and as high as 4 positive Gs. This is a great time to point out that ArieForce One also only features 5-car trains versus the traditional 6 found on Iron Gwazi and other RMCs. Just absolutely bonkers. With these types of aggressive forces, the re-rideability of these coasters is definitely questionable for some riders, whether that is due to the intensity or the leg discomfort caused by the restraints. I firmly believe that your body just adapts over time, but a few more factors go into re-rideability as well. Both Iron Gwazi and ArieForce One are glass smooth, so roughness isn't an issue at all. Crowds are definitely more of an issue at Busch Gardens Tampa, but you can't knock Iron Gwazi for that. However, the speed of operations when paired with the crowd can make Iron Gwazi's wait absolutely brutal. ArieForce One by no means has record-breaking speed for operations either, but the longest I've ever waited to ride is 10 to 15 minutes, which is a wonderful added bonus when you're looking to marathon one of your favorite coasters. One thing that both rides struggle with is reliability. I've had nightmare visits with both of these coasters. Iron Gwazi has had extended downtime spanning weeks in its first year, while ArieForce One consistently faults due to speed and can be up and down throughout the course of the day. With the summer heat kicking in, that's no fun. Definitely ride both of these coasters earlier in your visits. Iron Gwazi tends to run very slow in the morning, but runs absolutely elite later in the day. But I have never had this experience with ArieForce One. It does speed up throughout the day as well, but it runs well from morning to night. Lastly, ArieForce One is a staple free zone. If you meet the verify on the in-station monitor, you are good to go. They'll come check your restraint, and that's it. Iron Gwazi seems to be more hit or miss in this regard, but I do get decent room more often than not. So that brings us to the final question. Which coaster is better? The honest answer is, does it really matter? I think we all love both of these coasters, but according to the poll posted in my community page this week, Iron Gwazi won, taking 67% of the vote compared to ArieForce One's 33%. As for me, I'm going to be extraordinarily biased no matter what I do. So this is going to sound like a whole lot of but I personally find ArieForce One to be the more complete package, albeit ever so slightly. Thank you all for watching. That was my in-depth comparison of Iron Gwazi and ArieForce One. Which ride do you prefer? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, be sure to drop the video a like and subscribe to the channel as well for more roller coaster and theme park content just like this. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.